Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Tuesday. It's December 6th. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com as well. And we're joined by our friend Steve Marik from Inside Nebraska, Nebraska's rivals outlet. Steve, how are you, brother?
I'm doing great, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And you already know, Dustin, man, how was beating Creighton the other night? How big of a win was that? And how far back do you have to go for Nebraska? If not, I don't know how big, but I know it's a gigantic win.
Yeah. That environment inside the CHI Health Center in Omaha was just, if you're a Husker fan, you couldn't have dreamt up a better scenario for that thing, because Creighton has owned Nebraska on the basketball court. It was the first win in Omaha for Nebraska, a regular season win since 1995.
Yeah,
so,
I saw that.
I mean, it just tells you how much of a run the Blue Jays have been on in this rivalry. But yeah, I mean, it was absolutely incredible to see from Nebraska, because absolutely no one knew that was going to happen. I mean, 63 to 53, 10-point win over the number 7 team in the country. No one thought that was going to happen. So for them to play lights out, to play the defense that they did, which was not really, I mean, they've been better defensively this year, Nebraska has, but what they did against Creighton was really, really impressive. And we haven't seen that at all this year.
Do you know what the spread was for Dustin?
I don't.
I don't either. No,
I'm just curious what the spread might have been. I'll have to go back and look. Go ahead, Dustin.
Well, the thing that impressed me when you go back and look at the stat line was the fact that Nebraska won this game basically on grit and defense, because they only made 3 3-pointers in the game. They only shot 7 free throws. I mean, if you would have told me that was the stat line and they shot 46 or 47% from the floor, I would have probably thought Creighton won the game by 20 points. So that just shows you how well Nebraska has played on the defensive end. I'm curious, have you seen what have you seen over the last couple games? It seems like they're improving already this season, because they had some big losses to Oklahoma, to St. John's. But it seems like they've maybe gotten into a little bit of a rhythm. Has there been some sort of change these past few games, that they've found something, or what's the reason behind some of this recent success?
Yeah, so I think one thing to kind of start off with is this is a team with some new faces, and anytime that you get a basketball team with guys who are playing during the season for the first time in games, it has a chance to go bad sometimes, and I think that's part of the reason why Nebraska was kind of getting off, and they had that awful second half at St. John's. They didn't look good against Oklahoma. They look bad against Memphis. And on top of all that, when your 6th-year leader, Derek Walker, a 6'9", 250-pound man who's really, really good, misses the first 5 games of the regular season with a weird kind of thing that was not publicized. Head coach Fred Hoiberg called it healthcare reasons. There was no reason why. I mean, nobody came out and said exactly why Derek Walker wasn't playing for the first 5 games of the season. So when he's not out there, the team is lost, and they struggle to score. But when he is out there, Nebraska's a different team, and they showed that. And Derek Walker definitely showed that at Creighton against Ryan Kalkbrenner, one of the best big men in the country, 7'1". Derek Walker did not care about Ryan Kalkbrenner at all. He was going right at the hoop. He was going right at the rim. He was putting his shoulder right into Kalkbrenner's chest and seeing what he had. And Derek Walker won that matchup all night. And it was just really kind of fun to watch. Derek Walker had 22 points, 8 rebounds. And then you have Sam Griesel, the 6'7" point guard who is learning, I think, to play at this level. He's a transfer from North Dakota State, which is obviously a lower level, but still good basketball played over there. He's a local guy. He's from Lincoln, Nebraska. So transferring over here and playing for the hometown Huskers, who he grew up rooting for and watching, was really cool to see. He had a monster game as well. 18 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. He just plays at his own pace. He backs guys down. Usually it's a smaller player defending him. Because he's the main ball handler, and he just goes at his own pace. He's gonna show you your back and back down into the paint and kind of run the offense through that. And he's been pretty good at it. But yeah, the thing that won the game, in my opinion, with Nebraska is that defense. Though they were lights out with their rotations. A lot of guys are playing with their hair on hair on the fire, and it was really fun to see the rotations and everybody busting their butt to find the open man. And when the ball was rotating, they were putting their head down, they were sprinting to the corner and doing everything. So will it look like this every game? I'm going to go ahead and say no, but we'll see. I think it was a really great confidence booster for this team that absolutely needed it for a really tough stretch coming up, especially starting with Indiana here.
Nebraska is 6. They've lost their last 6 to Indiana, but they had actually won 3 in a row at one point. Then the first one they lost was in overtime. The games have been close for the most part. 20, it wasn't that close, but there's one. So it's even when they were Indiana supposed to 71-78 the last time they played in Lincoln. So Indiana has to have Jalen Hutchifino, or we see what they're like without him. At Rutgers, they look a lot like a team from last year. Did Nebraska? Do you think Nebraska took anything from that Rutgers game on defending Indiana with how well they're playing? Nebraska is playing defensively right now?
Yeah, I would say just maybe playing. I think what Nebraska needs to focus on, and they showed this at Creighton, is just playing their game and not getting sped up and doing something that they're not really good at, which is running and gunning and shooting a ton of threes, because they're not a very good shooting team. But what they can do is with Derek Walker and Sam Griesel, they need to play at their pace, which is a little bit slow. They need to care about defense. They need to rotate like they did on defense. They need to find the shooters, contest those shots. Creighton missed 33s. They took 40 of them. They missed 30 of them. And a lot of them were just plain misses open, but also there was a good chunk where Nebraska had hands and faces. And that's exactly what Fred Hoiberg talks about all the time. But when you look at what Nebraska maybe needs to do and what they took from Rutgers, maybe just like, staying true to who you are, and on offense, not just whipping the ball around the court and just jacking a three, which they're not good at. What they can do is take the ball to the hoop, own the points in the paint, win the rebounding battle. They've out-rebounded their opponent the past 5 games, I believe, and just, limit the opponents to one shot each possession, and just play within yourself and take the ball to the rim and, go from there and see what happens. If it's going to be a rock fight, I like Nebraska's chances in a rock fight. Honestly, that's just like what Nebraska does. It's the kind of roster that Fred has built in his season here.
I was going to make a similar point before I head out for the day, but this to me feels like if Indiana is hitting threes like they were in the first couple games of the season, I feel like this might be able to get out of hand.
Yeah.
However, what we saw at Rutgers, they did not shoot the 3 ball well. They didn't hit a lot of jump shots, and Rutgers, they took Trace Jackson Davis away. So I feel like if Nebraska can do that, if they can limit him inside, maybe get him in foul trouble or make his life miserable, he can't step out and hit a jump shot, especially if they don't have Jalen Hutchifino. Now we'll see what happens, but this, to me, I don't want to simplify this game down to this point, but I do think it might be quite this easy. Is if Indiana hits threes at about a 35 to 40% clip, I think Indiana might run away with it. If they are shooting the ball like they shot against Rutgers, there's potential for Nebraska to get another quality win under their belt here for the second time in 3 or 4 days.
What I'm kind of wondering about with that, Dustin, it's a really good point with Trace Davis, is who's going to guard him from. I'm just asking myself, who's going to guard him for Nebraska's roster? I kind of point to Juwan Gary. Juwan Gary's a transfer from Alabama. He's an older dude. He's like the tough jump guard dog that does a lot of the dirty stuff that isn't going to light up the scoreboard, but he's really tough. He had some man rebounds against Creighton, and he just did a really, really good job in doing the little things, keeping the ball moving, but really hunkering down on defense and taking away the Blue Jay scorers, whoever he was on. He's a switchable guy. He's 6'6", 215. I know Davis is a little bit bigger than him, but Gary's mindset is not going to worry about that. He's not going to care about that. So I'm just curious to see, that matchup for sure, and maybe to see which other Huskers kind of take their turn on him.